We're rolling.
Cool.
All right. So you play drums for
I
the
do.
band The Quell Source.
Yes. Yes, I play drums for the band Quell Source.
So, tell us a little bit about Enjoy the Ridge.
The album or the banner?
The album first.
Okay. The album we started recording in January of 2009. Almost like immediately after New Year's. And continued to record until around mid-May of 2009. It was like a really slow process, and we decided in mid-May to scrap all the recordings that we had at that point and start over because their recording quality was just not good at all. We were pretty much, in particular the drums were a problem for me because we had good drum mics and everything set up that we borrowed from Mark Raboltowski from Long Walk Home, had let me borrow his drum mics to record, and we were just running all of the mics through a mixer. So the drums were essentially one track, and that's all that we had. So in post-production we wouldn't have been able to mix the drums properly. It was all just whatever we thought sounded good at that time, which in the long run did not end up sounding good. So, and that was one of the reasons that we decided to re-record it. So Wave invested in a Tascam, which is like a 16-track mixer, which ended up sounding a lot better. And yeah, so then we recorded the version that is now out is the version we started in May, which we finished in November.
So you and Waif took care of most of the technical aspects.
Yeah, and mostly Waif. I mean, everyone pitched into it. You know, Kami did a decent amount of the technical stuff there too. But Wafer did, like, I would say 80 to 90% of the recording for everyone. And I would usually be the one that would record him. So we would sort of have like a lot of time to while I was recording him, I would take the time to like go through parts and kind of make some changes and work through to find out whatever would sound best.
Having all that time, you found it advantageous to record in the basement in Manio?
Yeah, I don't know if I would describe recording in a basement in Manio as advantageous, but in a way it was. With like unlimited time, there's sort of endless possibilities, which is both good and bad. Because you can make something sound a lot better, but it also sort of lends itself to wasting time, which is why it took us almost a year to record this. So, yeah, it's advantageous in some ways, and it's a problem in others. The quality, is one thing that when you listen to it, you can tell we recorded at home. It's a good quality home recording, but you can tell we recorded at home.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But it was good to have that time sort of to work on things because we hadn't fully fleshed out some certain parts of songs. So it was good to have time that we weren't paying $300 an hour to do that.
So I'm getting everyone's explanation on the name Enjoy the Ridge.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Well, Enjoy the Ridge is a completely sarcastic title, really, for the most part. I mean, it's a joke because, if I may take credit, it was actually initially I was the one that brought the idea of naming the album that to the table, which was initially rejected by Wiz, which I don't know whether he would admit now or not. But yeah, the title of the album came from when we started recording last January, and it was around the holiday season, so they had the banners up. I now know that they just put the banners up around Christmas. So like towards the end of November, we saw them appear again this year. Just these cheesy banners that just say "Enjoy the Ridge" with pictures of like robins and shit on them. It makes no sense because it's Ridge Avenue. It's like called the Ridge, and also the irony that it's somehow enjoyable, which it's most certainly not. There's trash everywhere, and it's loud, and there's just SEPTA buses, and like people walking by it with unbelievable accents, and all-star. It's certainly not enjoyable. So yeah, the title is a sarcastic homage to Ridge Avenue, inspired by those banners, which can now be seen once again on Ridge Avenue. And another part of the album title came, obviously because we recorded it at the house on Ridge Avenue. So it seemed like the perfect choice for me. When we were coming up with album names, it wasn't even something that we started throwing around until probably around the summer. It sort of started to occur to us, like, maybe we should think of what to call it. And, there weren't. I don't think there were even any other suggestions. It was kind of like, I was like, I think we should call the album Enjoy the Ridge, and Kev was like, yeah, that sounds awesome, and everyone else was sort of ambivalent, and Wiz was like, no. And then finally, I think like a couple weeks later, he was just like, okay, we can call it Enjoy the Ridge. And now everyone seems pretty happy with it.
Question on that, which is just a personal question, I'm not going to edit it out of this. I remember seeing you guys at North Star. What was that, last winter?
Yeah, December 28th, 2008.
There were a couple shows I remember where Dan was like, "This is a new song off our forthcoming album, Enjoy the Ridge." Was he being like sarcastic at that point? Because that was like a year ago.
Really? Maybe.
But I just remember like he would say off our forthcoming album, Enjoy the Ridge, and everyone would laugh.
No, are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Last December?
North Star. I could have sworn it was North Star off our forthcoming album, Enjoy the Ridge.
Oh, I was positive. I'm trying to remember specifically when we decided. Maybe my timetable is wrong. If it is, it's off by a lot. But
We can edit this out of the interview.
no, I'm actually now curious, trying to like, maybe I need to revise what I just said. But I don't know. It's possible. It's possible. I really feel like we didn't decide to do that till like this summer. But so in that case, he probably was joking, and then it
That's right. I thought it was a joke at the time, but
yeah, it ended up being real. When was the other? We played the North Star again. No, do you know what? Fuck that. We decided to call it. Yeah, you're right. We did decide to call it that like a year ago.
okay.
Because in the interview with Pat Foy interviewed us for Ridgeovation magazine, and that was
Right
last
after
February, and we had already decided to call it Enjoy the Ridge, and we had decided that for a while. So yeah, I'm just like tired. Yeah, we decided to call it Enjoy the Ridge like a year ago.
Okay.
Okay. Well, regardless, Wiz was against it.
Which was against it at first.
I do hold on to that.
No, I believe you. Because the first time I heard the name, I got the impression Wiz was goofing around, and then months later I was like, oh, that's really what they're gonna call it.
That's one of my favorite things about the title, because if you don't know us personally, it sounds like it could be serious, except that the album cover is really weird, and you would kind of guess that maybe it's not serious, but it's I like the title because it could work on several levels, and it could almost be serious. Just the phrase "Enjoy the Ridge" is funny to us, but at the same time, like, I googled it when we first decided to use it because I was actually looking for like, I thought there would be like a Roxborough website for like how you can enjoy the Ridge, or, like a shopping district or something, and then obviously there's nothing, like no Roxborough's internet, I guess.
Nothing to enjoy in Roxborough.
Yeah, and I think I googled it and it was something like, now if you Google Enjoy the Ridge, like, there's actually some Quell Source stuff, finally.
Nice.
But like months ago I'd Google it and I would always check back to see if there's anything, and there wasn't. And Enjoy the Ridge just returned a bunch of stuff like, and youngsters enjoy Blue Ridge Mountain, like it's like all this different stuff, and that sort of just made me chuckle thinking about like what the different interpretations of Enjoy the Ridge could be for people. I actually found a picture of myself when I was at home recently. I was looking through old photo albums and found a picture of myself on like the edge of some ridge on some mountaintop in Vermont, and I was like, pointing out to my sister, I was like, ha, look, I'm enjoying a ridge.
It's good. I think it's good. Works on many levels.
Yeah, it certainly does.
So, all right, a couple more questions I'm getting from everybody. Well, maybe not. Recording in the basement, drums. What was the most difficult part?
The most difficult part was that it's not like we recorded all of the parts in a week. That being said, I was always the first one done because drum tracks are, they don't have to be, but the way we did it, they're done first. And so I would do a drum track playing along with either Kev or Wiz. And so the hardest part would be, well, I mean, alright, so first of all, I mean, regardless of recording the bass or not, like recording drums for an album is kind of like a, I don't want to say stressful, it's not stressful, but it's kind of like a, yeah, for lack of a better word, it's kind of a stressful process because it's, you know, while I'm recording them, I'm thinking, shit, this is what everyone else is going to be listening to while they're recording their part, so I better make it, like, pretty good, you know? Like, I can't really screw this up at all.
Right.
And that definitely led to some really frustrating moments, in particular for, you know, the State Line. That one, most tracks I got in within, like, 2 or 3 takes at most, and it wasn't a problem, but State Line, I think we did, like, 30 takes on. So I would say that initially, I mean, that's one of the fundamental problems with recording drums. It's just kind of like a lot of pressure, you know, like I'm the one, like I create the thing, like it's the first thing that's there and everyone else is adding on top of that. And sometimes I'm kind of jealous that I can't just like play a part over what someone else did and, you know, be like, oh no, you fucked that up, re-record it, you know, like, which
Absolutely.
would occasionally happen to me. But I mean, in terms of specifically recording in the basement and recording it ourselves, the biggest problem we ran into was, I guess, consistency of sound and consistency of frequency, because it's not like I recorded all the drum parts at the same time. I recorded them all within about a month or two of each other, but the hardest part was that, you know, Mark would need his mics back, so like we would just sort of dismount everything, or we would have a show, and I would like take the drums and play a show and then come back and record something again, and that changes the sound. Because even if I tune them again and I tune each drum to like the way I thought that it was, it's going to sound a little different.
Yeah.
And when we went to Milk Boy and brought the tracks to Cody, who was the guy that mixed it, he would comment on certain tracks. He'd be like, the drums are really well recorded on this. And then other ones he would like start going through and he'd just be sitting at his computer like, and he'd have that face on, or I knew something was wrong, I'd be like playing something, like go back and then like rewind and go back and just like have this face on, like did you guys record these somewhere else or something? Like, did you do the drums in another room? Like, no, like it was the exact same position. Like we had like tape like marked, like it's the same position, same microphone, same chords. We marked the chords, same thing. Like all the set was totally the same, but it was just a different week or whatever, and the frequencies would be different on the recording for whatever reason. And there's a million reasons that could happen, but that led to one of the main problems, which then, you know, leads to an overall inconsistency of the sound. But for this album, I wasn't concerned about that because we're recording at home anyway. What are you gonna do?
Right on.
You know?
Cody seemed to have a good handle on mixing.
Yeah, he did a good job making it sound relatively consistent, especially considering that almost every track on the album sounds like it could be something different, so.
No, it came out rather consistent, I thought.
Thank you.
So, alright, well, speaking of live shows and how it affects recording, questions on live shows. What would you consider the best show the Qualsters has played since you've joined the band?
That's a good question. Two stick out. One would be, well, I joined the band last August, and we played a lot of shows in that fall, so it's sort of like baptism by fire. A lot of local shows, and like some of those were pretty good. One, the Tin Angel was, I think, in like October, I want to say, and that show, even though it started and was like a total pain in our ass, and there's a long story for why it was so bad, but that show ended up being pretty good, and that was probably the first show where I felt pretty comfortable playing with them. And then, but in December of 2008, actually a year ago today, December 20th, 2008, we played at Pianos in New York, and that was a good show, because venue's pretty legit, and we had a decent sized crowd come out, and the sound guy there was amazing, which is like my first lesson that these dog shit venues in Philly don't know what they're doing and hire complete assholes who can't do sound. And I won't name any specifically, but you know what venues I'm fucking talking about. And like just these sound guys that don't give a fuck. And it's like, oh, so like that's why people said they couldn't hear so and so, or why it was like, you know, we got the recording back from that show because they do a recording right from the soundboard, and like it was really well recorded, and that was good too. The energy of that show was good, and it was the first show I've ever played in New York, which was kind of fun.
Would you consider piano as your favorite venue to play?
I wouldn't say that. I just only played there once, so I don't think I can say that. But that was definitely one of the best shows that I played with them. The other one would be the show at Blink and Lincoln last May, which you recorded.
It was a good show.
It was a good show. The Blink and Lincoln version 1.0.
Yes.
Not the...
I do like the new Blink and Lincoln.
Yeah.
That, it's the original. Original had very good sound.
Did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, surprisingly good sound, given the narrow scope of the room.
Alright, we'll do quick questions.
Cool.
I say Dan Wisniewski. You say
Songwriter.
Songwriter? Okay. Dan Conley?
Keyboard player?
A few words on Dan Conley.
Are we doing... Yeah, wait, are we doing a few words or one word? Are these one-word responses?
It's whatever the spirit moves you to respond.
Oh.
If I say Dan Conley, respond. You can talk for half an hour. You can say Dan Conley.
Wow.
I can sum up by saying keyboard player.
See, yeah, the great thing about Conley is he brings levity.
Chris Wafer.
Chris Wafer brings levity to the band. Sorry, that's a correction. Yeah, no, it's funny, I actually busting Wafer's balls about that. I know what he meant, you know. About Conley. Conley adds, like, probably some of the coolest parts to the songs. And, I'm glad they're using a keyboard because now people can hear them, which is cool. Because previously you couldn't really hear it on the hoopty in the live setting quite so much. But
we had a place in our heart for that hoopty, though.
Yeah. No, but yeah, Conley writes probably like the most like the parts that you would never expect anyone to even come up with, that just like bring something to the song that is completely unexpected, which is awesome. So it's really great to hear what he's coming up with.
Tell me a little bit about Christopher Wafer.
Christopher Wafer is...
Tell me a little bit about Dan Wisniewski.
Dan Wisniewski is a great songwriter, and he was probably one of the like clinchers for me in joining the band, in that he wrote Creepy Song, and like when I first, like, Kevin had mentioned that like they were looking for a new drummer and like asked what I was doing, and I was like, oh, nothing really. So like I went to go see them live a couple times, and at every show I was like impressed, but particularly impressed by the fact that like they were willing to write the Creepy Song and play it live at like the Tin Angel and shit. And you know, I would be like, that was, you know, kind of a defining thing. And I remember being intrigued by like the fact that they had, like I said, been willing to write that song. And the newer stuff that he's been writing, I'm always really excited about, and I like I just dig his style. It's pretty unique, and yeah, it's what it is derivative of are things that I like very much. So
Right on.
Yeah.
And Kevin Ryan?
Kevin Ryan is the actual reason that I joined the band, in that like he's the only person I knew beforehand. We grew up in the same area, so sort of knew him from that, and then we went to the same high school, so I would occasionally give him rides to school. So I was a year older and could therefore drive. And
Cool.
yeah, his songwriting is great too. It's interesting to watch the development of the band because it's not like they wrote shitty songs before, but obviously I'm more invested in the songs that they're writing now because I'm actually in the band now.
Mm.
And since I've joined, and even since I joined, I've noticed that it just seems like their songwriting has adapted to sort of like the nature of a new band almost like. It's almost like it's like this new entity and everyone's writing differently all of a sudden just like within the past year or so, and it's sort of it's cool to be a part of.
Absolutely. I mean, I know the Quell Source. I knew the Quell Source from St. Joe's. They went through a few drummers, and then you obviously like settled in.
Yeah.
Was it like a relatively smooth transition for both you and the band to finally like find that drummer and for you to sort of fit into what they already had going?
Yeah, it surprisingly was, and like more so than I think I expected, and can't really speak for them, but I think more so than they were expecting to. It was sort of like a very smooth transition. Like I almost immediately felt really comfortable with them after like 2 practices. I was like, yeah, hanging out at the Ridge, like cool, CDI, jazz band, yeah, like it was just. I don't know, I definitely, like, we all clicked pretty quickly. And, yeah, I mean, it was a good opportunity for me, too. I hadn't really been playing previous to that I think, let's see, that was like 2008. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't even been seriously playing in a band for like 3 years prior to that. So, yeah, I mean, that was like it was a big sort of step for me to jump back into playing again. I'm glad I did because it's definitely improved my playing. Just sort of being forced to play that often and sort of being pushed by the other guys in terms of just writing and even just like, I mean, the stamina to like play that much. It sort of takes some getting used to. I'd like redevelop the calluses in my fingers and stuff. And so I'm sort of glad to have that back. I feel like it's made me a better drummer.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I guess finally, what's next for the Quell Source?
The future. I'm not gonna do that. That's so great though. I can't wait till Lance does that. Honestly, so what's next for the Quell Source? I mean, probably I can't speak for everyone. I kind of would like to do an EP, just because I think we're exhausted from recording the album, and I like the album a lot, but I'm not as personally invested in it, I think, as the other guys would be, simply because there are songs on the album that I had absolutely no part in writing, and it's just kind of, I'm fine with that, but I'm looking forward to putting out something and recording something that we all, the 5 of us, actually worked on together. Instead of me being like, oh, maybe this drum part that's been there for 3 years, I could do this instead. And like, that's my input. It's kind of like I wrote the actual whole part. Which is true for a lot of the songs on the album, but, and like I sort of mentioned the change of style before too, like a lot of not a lot, but some of the songs on Enjoy the Ridge, it's, they're old songs. I mean, like, I forget how old the Silence is, but I think it's like, let's say 2005 or 2006. It's like a pretty old song. And so, I mean, I kind of would like to put out an EP or something. It's just like all new stuff that we've written recently that's like, here's where we're going and this is what it sounds like, and we don't have to spend a year recording it, and it won't be frustrating, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Any final words for our viewing audience?
Yeah. Oh, I've more on just a little more about recording. So, Climateers. The funny thing about Climateers is that it's like a good example of how one of the benefits of being able to record in the basement at the Ridge is that the track that we ended up, the take that we ended up using for the drums on Climateers was recorded at like 4 in the morning. which is like a pretty good example of the benefits of being able to record at home, because like with all of the noise that goes on Ridge Avenue, no one can hear anything. So we could actually like be playing drums at like 4 or 5 in the morning and no one cares.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And other distinctive things. Creepy was a good chance. I got really excited because when we're like working on new songs, well, like a lot of times what we'll do is for a while when I first joined the band, Wiz had like this little MP3 recorder, just like a dictation device thing that he would record live shows and stuff with, and that eventually broke. So for a while, like, you know, since then we used to have bootlegs at every show, which was great to listen to, just for feedback, like just to be able to hear what we did wrong and where everyone fucked up and who we could like, you know, chide out for what they did wrong, or, you know, self-improvement, whatever. So we sort of missed having that for live shows, but what we started doing is for practices, especially when we were like working through new songs, Wiz would just bring down his laptop and like his just Dell laptop and just put it down like in one corner of the basement and hit record and just record like a really basic WAV file from the microphone that's in the computer. And I fell in love with the shitty ass quality of it, because he would like email them around and I would listen to it on my iPod while I was at work all week, and then we'd come back the next weekend or whatever, and like I would, you know, built on the song more and everyone would be working on it, which I think is a great writing process to be able to do that. But I guess just through habituation or whatever, I just started to really like the sound quality in a weird way, because it was so overblown and just like crazy, but it also picked up really interesting low end and high end tones, like the sort of this drastic like difference between the two, and I just really liked it. And I always sort of like, you know, the lo-fi aspect of it was interesting to me, and I always figured it would be cool to use somehow, but I knew that it wouldn't sound good to actually use on something. So I managed to come up with an idea to use it that I knew Wiz would enjoy, because he just loves lo-fi stuff so much, and it fit the song perfectly for Creepy, which was that we had, when I was recording, we had 5 drum mics and then 1 overhead for cymbals and stuff, and just the overall sound to mix it all together. And then that would just usually be those 6 mics mixed into the mixing board, and, you know, each with their own track, whatever. And I had the idea that for when we record Creepy Song, I should just get Wiz to bring his laptop down and throw it in the corner of a basement like we did when we were practicing. So for that song, I had the 6 normal mics going, and then his laptop one. And then I had him send that WAV file to Wafer, put it in there, so we had it in the Logic file, and just put it below everything else. So Creepy actually has 8 drum tracks on it, because Kevin also did the spit drum, which is like the additional floor tom track on it. He added that later. But for the live, there's like 7 live tracks on it, because I decided to throw in the one from Conley, from Wiz's computer.
That's
and
awesome.
I sort of had the idea that like we could just mix that, not to use it entirely one or the other, but I figured that Creepy Song was deserving of not having sort of like the pristine, not that it sounds pristine on everything else, but you know what I mean, like sort of something that sets it apart. And if you listen to it, you can kind of hear it. It's like there's something weird going on, and I like that, because we pretty easily could have just gone in to Milk Boy and been like, oh, Cody, we want